Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's Anxiety Q&A with me, Tim Box. I'm a mind coach and a remedial hypnotist, and I see a lot of clients one-to-one every day to help them deal with anxiety issues. If you have heard of me, you probably know me from my TED Talk, which is called How to Stop Feeling Anxious About Anxiety, or you might know my book, which is called Clear Your Head, which is all about how to live our life without anxiety getting in the way. So with all the intros done, if this is your first time, please say hi. If this isn't your first time, please say hi if you're coming into the room. I'm normally on for about half an hour, and this video will remain up. So if you're joining me, you might be watching this on playback now. Who knows? But if you are in the room, good evening, Carlos. Good evening, Diane. Then say hi, hit the like button if you're that way inclined. That would be lovely. If you want to share this live stream with other people to help other people get some help as well. Hi, Ivan. How are you doing? But yeah, so the standard format here, by the way, if you don't know already, is that I have I've some questions that are put on my videos. Some of them I answer in the comments section, and because they're only short answers that I need to give. Others demand a little bit of discussion, so I put them in these lives so that I can talk them through a little bit, give a more full and comprehensive answer than just a couple of sentences. So I have questions on this bit of paper in front of me that I'm going to work my way through answering, hopefully. But as anyone that's seen these lives knows, I always try and prioritize the questions that are in the room on the night. You've joined me live, and yeah, ask any questions you need answered, because then I can answer them whilst we're here. Okay. I hope you've had a good week, everyone. I've had a good week. I was at Disneyland in Paris this week, myself and my other half Brit, and yeah, we had a lovely time. It was quite cold, but the weather was lovely though. It was blue skies, but it was quite, it's getting to the winter now. And I feel like I need a holiday to get over my holiday, because Disneyland's not the sort of place you go to chill out, is it? Normally it was quite, I think we did something like 25,000 steps every day, which is more steps than I normally care to do, I'll be honest with you. And my job is sort of sitting in front of this screen talking to people. So more steps than I normally manage to do. But then maybe that's the point. I should be doing more steps. But anyway, let's get on with questions here, because I can see a couple of you have put comments in. Hi, Paul. Good to see you. And I'll start to answer your questions. Right. Paul, hi Tim. A tool that I recommend is the gratitude journal that I use every day. It not only reminds me of my successes, it's a record of my recovery, but it continually forces me to leave my comfort zone. You know what, Paul? You're not the first person to mention a gratitude journal to me. And I don't see anyone that's worked with me one-to-one will know I'm not the sort of therapist that sets tasks or suggests certain management techniques, if that makes sense. Like I don't teach certain tools to help you when you're feeling anxious. I don't recommend certain practices to maintain a good emotional state of well-being. I tend to do the work with the client in the session, and I tend to think as well that if our subconscious is understanding things correctly, we don't have a lot of management to do. Yeah, we have best practices to be involved in, things like healthy lifestyle, healthy diet, that sort of thing. But the reason I don't talk about these things is because I don't sort of, prescribe them to clients, if that's the right word. It probably isn't the right word, but you know what I mean. But I have heard people talk about a gratitude journal, and I think it sounds like a smart idea to me. I think there's always room in our lives to congratulate us on the things that we've done, to recognize the things that we have. Just to take the time out to, I don't know, pat ourselves on the back a little bit as well for the things that we do achieve. I think we're very quick to talk to ourselves when we're putting ourselves down. We don't do a lot of talking to ourselves to big ourselves up or congratulate ourselves, or just say thank you to the part of us that's doing pretty well in the midst of all of life's challenges. So yeah, I think any sort of journal where we're keeping track of the good stuff, is really, really good. I tend to shy away from like self-assessment journals, which I think there's a difference between them. Yeah, I think that the journal where we show gratitude, where we appreciate how we're doing, that sounds great. I tend to shy away from the ones where we're just kind of assessing how we are. Am I good today? Am I bad today? Where you have the little colored graph that tells you, you fill in a certain color depending on how you're feeling. Now, I do recognize that that can tell you about certain trends, and it can flag up certain things that impact negatively upon you. So things like your hormone cycle, things like your diet, stuff like that, things that we wouldn't notice unless we actually had it. I was going to say in black and white, but in full color, the way we're feeling from moment to moment. The only downside of that is it can sort of feed into that propensity to overscan that we sometimes develop when we're feeling high anxiety. So I tend to not it's not like I say I recommend staying away from them. It's just be wary of them if we're charting good and bad, ups and downs, because it can just have us continuing that cycle of overscanning. Yeah, but Paul, I think that's great that the gratitude journal is working for you. Yeah, you've put in here, track only the good stuff. You've put only in block capitals. Nice one. Yeah, gratitude journal, not a scanning journal. Superb. Love that. Love that. Carlos. Hi, Tim. I'm at my 8th driving lesson. So those of you that are joining this live for the first time, Carlos is learning to drive, which is a huge step out of his comfort zone. So again, huge congratulations to you, Carlos. That's amazing stuff. It's going good, but every time facing all the anxiety of driving, going far from home, so many other fears all at once, it's exhausting sometimes. Any tips? Yeah, I mean, the standard tips, I think that we give a lot, but bear repeating. Take one thing at a time. And allow yourself to be in the moment. I think you'll find that when we do things that are challenging, if we look back on them, the thing that was the challenging thing, it wasn't doing the thing, it was how we felt about doing the thing, the sort of the preemptive anxiety, the imagining, the catastrophizing, what could go wrong, what might not go well enough, how we might not do well enough. The actual activity itself, when we look at that in isolation, was probably pretty straightforward. We started doing it, we got on with it, we felt better as we went through it. It's all the stuff in the run up to it that is the problem. So I'd kind of, encourage yourself. If you find yourself doing that, Carlos, if you find yourself falling into that preemptive anxiety thing, just check yourself a little bit and say, well, hang on, I'm just imagining what might go wrong now. And actually what happens is I get involved and it goes okay. In fact, sometimes probably goes pretty well. So I think that's what I would say is put less focus on the run up to it and building it up in your mind, and recognize that, 8 times now you've done fine. So evidence suggests you're doing okay. Yeah, it's like anytime we go into something new, we need a bit of faith, don't we, in ourselves to be able to do it. You don't need faith now. You've got 8 examples of evidence that, I do this, I get better each time, and it's going well. But yeah, I hope that helps. I can see you put a little response there. Yeah, thanks to you. To the tip of there's not a right time to start something new is what made me take courage and go for it. Yeah, we said this, didn't we? I mean, this was a while ago. I remember we said this. That was if we wait until we feel good enough to start to like get back to work or start the new project, then we'll never get there, because we'll always be able to find certain anxieties about it, because that's why we're not doing it, isn't it? Because I don't feel good enough yet. Don't feel like ready. Yeah. So we never, I mean, I said it the other day, I think, on one of the lives, if we allow ourselves time to feel anxious, guess what our mind will fill that time with? Extra anxiety, because that's literally what you've put the space and the time in for. So getting on and doing the thing is sometimes what ultimately allows us to move on from that high anxiety phase. Yeah. So high anxiety and doing much better with that. That's great to hear, Carlos. And one of the reasons is the huge changes. Hang on, I'll read that again. I've misread that. One of the reasons are all the huge changes that are happening in my life. Yeah. I think, Carlos, you've got to recognize that there are going to be, you feeling anxious about certain things in your life is absolutely natural, but you doing the thing and confronting it is just further evidence in your mind saying, yeah, I actually can do this stuff. I do this stuff, and I get the other side of those challenges. Sometimes we put so much focus on how anxious we've felt in the process that all we learn is that, oh yeah, I get really anxious. When what we should be learning is, even when I'm anxious, I get this stuff done. If we learn that, then the next time we face a new challenge or we have a lot going on, our expectation is of overcoming that challenge rather than being beaten down by the anxiety that surrounds it. Yeah. Okay. Diane, you've mentioned intrusive thoughts as well. Reinal, I don't know how to pronounce that name, but hello. How to remove anxiety and live stress-free life. Right. Right. I'm gonna do that first one, and then I'm gonna come to yours, Diane, because you mentioned intrusive thoughts. I know it wasn't a direct question, but I just want to talk about that because I think there's been a couple of comments about intrusive thoughts, and it's worth talking about them, I think. Make a little note. Right. How to remove anxiety and live stress-free life. You can't. Removing anxiety should not be the goal. We're meant to feel anxious from moment to moment. I'm not saying like crippling anxiety. I'm saying functional day-to-day anxiety. Every time something comes into your mind that you've got to do or you've got to take care of, that's anxiety. That's the emotion that your mind uses to get your attention to do the important thing, whatever that is. Okay. Now, living a stress-free life, stress-free might be a bit ambitious because what is stress really? It's the fight or flight response. That's they're synonymous. Yeah. Fight or flight response occurs not when we feel anxious, because anxiety is the focus on the important thing. The stress response is when the important thing is deemed to have some threat for us, to carry some threat, because then we have a fear response, the fight or flight. Now, we're not going to live a life where we just never experience that, unless you make billions of dollars and pounds and then go and live on a desert island. But probably there's its own stresses that come with owning a desert island, even if you've got nothing to do there. So I think we should expect that certain times we're going to feel challenged. I would suggest the best that we can do, or a really good starting point here, is to recognize that feeling anxious or stressed isn't a malfunction. It's a very natural response to modern living. Modern living, modern life, the world we live in. Yeah, we might not have to run from predators anymore. We might not have to, fight the person down the road for the last scraps of food that are going, and kill wild animals, but we still have cause to go into a stress response. Yeah, you could argue it is inappropriate, isn't it? We don't need to go into fight or flight to solve our problems now. The biggest issues we've got is sending that email on time or paying that bill. Do we really need an excessive amount of adrenaline in our system to do that? Probably not. But if we could stop viewing it as a malfunction, because it's not that, oh, me as a human being, I'm malfunctioning. It's that, oh, yes, the way we live has evolved faster than our brains can evolve. So, yeah, we might just want to talk to somebody at an event and make a good impression. And we might think, well, why is my heart racing? I'm not about to leap over trees or, go into battle. I don't need my blood pumping and this adrenaline coursing through my body. But that's what our brains do, because that's where we are, evolutionarily speaking, is that we still haven't, our brain hasn't evolved beyond the time when that was our day-to-day activities. So it's kind of allow ourselves to feel highly anxious at times and don't regard it as a malfunction. It's just doing what we do. Yeah, I think a lot of the time, if we stop beating ourselves up for how we feel or regarding it as something going wrong, we then no longer create that second level of fear, which is the anxiety about the anxiety, the fear of the fear. Yeah, literally, Dr. Claire Weeks used to refer to it as the second fear. And that's what we're talking about there. So apologies, I can't pronounce your username, but that's what I would say when you say about removing anxiety and living a stress-free life, except that shouldn't be the goal, because if that is, then we'll constantly be beating ourselves up for not getting it right. Allow yourself to feel anxious about certain things, not so anxious about others, really anxious about some, and don't regard it as a malfunction, because then you won't create the excessive anxiety that piles on top of that. Okay. Hope that was of help. If you're in the room, by the way, and you haven't hit the thumbs up button, that would be great if you could. That really helps the channel grow. It helps people see these lives. It helps people get the help that they are looking for. So if you could do that, that would be awesome. And also, it just lets me know that some of the things I'm saying are hitting the mark. Okay, Diane, you were talking about intrusive thoughts. Right. I think we need to stop regarding intrusive thoughts as a huge problem. Yeah, and I know we call them intrusive thoughts because they're intrusive and they feel like a problem. They're thoughts that we feel we shouldn't be having. So I get it, yeah. But please understand, an intrusive thought is a part of your mind doing its job. That's it. Okay. So when you think about it, yeah, your mind is so your subconscious is doing a lot of things you're not consciously aware of. Yeah. Um, like, thousands at any given time. Yeah. We've got 40 quadrillion active synaptic connections in the average healthy human brain. And they're constantly like reconfiguring and rewiring based on the input that we're giving our brain via our five senses. There's a lot going on in there. Okay. One of some of the things that your mind is doing is working out what's safe and what's not safe, what's good and what's not good, what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing, and it's constantly doing this. Yeah. So when we go into a room without realizing it, a bit of our mind is working out the potential threats there, the potential dangers, the potential good things we might want to move towards. What comes into our conscious awareness is just that tiny little tip of the iceberg. Yeah, the stuff that our subconscious pushes into our conscious awareness as here's the info as we see it that we think you need to know. Okay. Now, intrusive thoughts can take all manner of forms for us, but essentially they're thoughts that your subconscious has pushed forward and you don't think they should be there. Yeah, they come into your conscious awareness and you don't think they should be in your conscious awareness. Okay. Don't think it's wrong that you're having them. It's right that you're having them, no matter how weird, no matter how I don't know, ill-advised, or even, like plain destructive or depraved even. The thoughts are meant to be there so that we can say that, no, not that, that, or maybe that, or how about that? Your mind is constantly sorting this stuff through. It's not a problem you're having them. The only problem is that they're coming into your conscious awareness. And you know why they're coming into your conscious awareness? Because at some point you went into a higher state of anxiety than you would ideally like. And you went into what I would call Starship Enterprise red alert mode. So, on the old 60s Star Trek episodes, Kirk would say red alert, and then all the lights would start flashing red, and you'd see like lots of extras running through the corridors going to battle stations. Lots of people on the Starship Enterprise going to battle stations. Now, those guys don't know what the threat is because they're not on the bridge of the ship. They're just in threat mode. So they're looking for Klingons out the window, basically. Yeah. And that's the mode your mind goes into when you're in a state of fight or flight. There's bits of your subconscious that are like, what is the threat? So everything you look at potentially contains threat, or certainly your mind is trying to work out what might be, is that the threat? What might be threatening about that thing over there? Okay. Now, as a result of that, you will have certain thoughts that don't necessarily seem like they should be coming forward, but they're coming forward because does this represent any threat? Yeah, your subconscious speaking to your conscious saying, maybe you need to have this thought that you're aware of. Then, of course, it only takes one of those thoughts to come forward and you starting to think intrusive thoughts. I seem to have a problem with intrusive thoughts. Now, of course, your subconscious is prioritizing those weird, bizarre thoughts because we've been told to look out for them now because they seem to be a threat. So now they come forward more often. You notice them more. They come from your subconscious into your conscious more often because now they are perceived to be the threat that we're looking out for. So what this means is that none of this intrusive thought stuff is anything you need to regard as a problem because it's a very natural and healthy response to becoming concerned about your thought processes. And that's all I can say is that intrusive thoughts, you'll start to feel like, oh, they just suddenly stopped for some reason, or I don't have them that much anymore when you stop regarding them as a threat. By some miraculous coincidence, when you realize they hold no threat to you, they're nothing that you need to pay attention to, you'll just miraculously, for some reason, I don't seem to have them anymore. Yeah. I heard my good friend Howard Cooper describe it once on one of his lives, I think. And he was saying, if you ask people that don't have a problem with intrusive thoughts, that don't have an anxiety problem at all, do you ever have these sorts of thoughts, X or Y, the random thoughts? And, and obviously if they're not just taking the mick out of you or, being that mate that likes to take the piss, and they're being honest with you, and they'll normally do something like, yeah, I suppose now and again. Yeah, I do. I don't know, maybe. And then you say, well, what do you do with those thoughts when you have them? And they're like, well, I don't do anything with them. Yeah, I don't pay attention to them. And that's why they struggle to remember whether they did or not, because they just didn't find them important or of any in any way noteworthy. And I guess that's the point, is that as soon as we stop regarding them as a problem, we stop noticing them so much, and they stop coming forward so much, because no part of our mind has flagged them up as a problem that we need to pay attention to. Okay. So I felt that was a really long way of explaining that, but hopefully it makes some sort of sense. I'm sitting here thinking, I'd really like Nikki to be able to edit that down. My video editors, edit that down into a minute for a short or a reel or something. I think that might have just been about 5 minutes of explanation. I'm going to be trying to get it condensed into a few pointed sentences. Anyway, I hope that was of value. But I can see there's loads of comments come in since I've been chatting about that. So let me just start to see some more. Good evening, Sean. Good evening, Kerry. Atul, good evening. Sally, hello. Sam as well. Faith and Grace, hello. Right, let me start to break down some of these questions. Sean, hi Tim. I just want to say thank you for everything you do. I was dealing with very high anxiety after losing my dad, but your videos helped me get out the other side. I'm so sorry to hear that for a start, but I'm glad the videos were of help. I'm glad they were. I don't do anxiety is my specialty, as you guys know, and I would say about 99% of my clients are direct anxiety clients, but it's amazing how often those clients are also dealing with grief or trauma, because all this stuff is interwoven, isn't it? And it's that's the stuff that I don't know is almost like the origin story of our high anxiety at times, isn't it? Kerry, I'm experiencing feelings like I will fall over and feeling unbalanced. I'm trying to accept and let the feelings be, but finding it so hard as the feelings are so intense all the time and don't go. Okay, Kerry, first thing, of course, I'm not a medical person. I would always, anything that is presenting as vaguely medical, even, always head to the doctor first. I would always recommend that. And then if you might have been to the doctor already and they might have said, there's nothing going on, nothing you need to be concerned with. In which case it would be, I guess if you were a client of mine and you were saying, yeah, I've been to the doctor, they've said nothing wrong, they said it's just anxiety based. Yeah, the thing to remember there is that the doctor isn't saying you have been diagnosed with an anxiety problem now. The doctor's saying, you have tested negative for everything. That's good news. So what's going on then is that something about your high anxiety response is causing you to feel unbalanced at times, for whatever reason. But I mean, yeah, I'm gonna Kerry, before I say anything else, I don't know if you're still in the room, or whether you just checked out after my really epic talk about intrusive thoughts there. But I'd be interested to know if you had been to the doctor, because I wouldn't necessarily, that's the first thing I'm going to say if a client comes to me and says these things. I'd be like, well, have you just had that checked out? Because there may be the inner ear stuff and all that stuff, says Tim Box, that has no medical training at all. But, I know from my own experience, I think my sister had an inner ear thing that caused her to feel unbalanced. Because it's also worth noting that when we have a weird physical symptom, and let's face it, that could be anything. There are so many times our body just does something that where did that come from? Why do I feel that way? I've no idea, and just for loads of different reasons. One of the practitioners that I've trained that works with my system, she's also a doctor, and we were talking about this the other day, about how many weird presenting symptoms a GP has to deal with just because of your body doing that, energy in, energy out balance thing that it does so brilliantly. And yet there's so many times where we feel strange in some way, and then we can sometimes start to fixate on that presenting symptom. And as a result of it, we kind of, I don't know, you know that thing when you look at a speck of dust under a microscope and it looks like a monster? We start to hyperfixate on a potential threat, and as a result start to create that threat in our mind. So yeah, Kerry, the first thing I would be looking to do is to get the doctor to give me a nice clear me on that. And then if I can treat it like anxiety, I might be treating it like, well, maybe for some reason I had a balance thing that's cleared itself up, but now I'm fixating on it a little bit that creates it. Oh, here you go. Kerry's put, I've been to my GP several times and they've said anxiety. I paid for a private brain scan and awaiting results. GP said doesn't need to refer. Right. So that's good news for a start. It's lovely when it's always remember, I know it doesn't help because you're like, well, I want to know what this is. it's good when the GP says, yep, we've done the examinations we need and there's nothing there that we directly need to be worrying about medically. So for a start, take that as a good thing. And I know the temptation is to still feel frustrated, but take it as a good thing. And the second thing I would say is understand that your mind is a powerful thing. And when we fixate on a certain idea, we can absolutely create that symptom. Yeah. So there's obviously, we know about placebo. Yeah, placebo effect being where we feel better from a certain illness because we believe we've been given the remedial drug when we haven't. We've just been given something that is, I don't know, sugar pills or something, but we feel better because our brain is accepting the idea that we can heal now. There's also the nocebo effect, that when we start to be concerned about a certain presenting symptom or a way that we feel, yeah, then we can create that in our own mind and it can become very, very real to us. Now, this is the thing. Don't dismiss, when people say it's anxiety related, don't dismiss this as, oh, I'm making it up or I'm a hypochondriac or anything like that. No. Your mind is what's creating your reality, yeah? Everything that you're seeing around you, you're not seeing it as it is. You're seeing it as the filters in your mind are allowing you to see it. So, and the things you see, the things you hear, yeah, everything about what's going on around you. So it's important to remember that the things that you regard as real aren't necessarily real. They are partly created by your own mind. And if we fixate on a certain idea, a certain negative idea, we absolutely will be able to talk ourselves into feeling very bad, focused on in the midst of that idea, created by that idea. I was talking to somebody. Oh, I think it was Brit. She was playing with a ball of blue tack. So I'm going back a bit now. We just took down our Halloween decorations. Not just took them down, but we did have them up longer than maybe most people have had them. Literally until last week, we had 3 skeletons sitting at the dining table. Anyway, so we were taking the blue tack off of all the decorations. And Brit's been sitting there for a few days rolling a ball of blue tack. And it reminded me of a story that I told her where when I was a kid, I remember doing the same thing in one of my classrooms. And for some reason, I just started biting the blue tack. Like just because it felt nice to I don't know, kids. And at some point I got it in my head I'd swallowed some of this blue tack. And for about an hour in my last lesson, I was panicking about, oh my God, I've swallowed blue tack. I'm going to die. And then when the lady that came to pick me up, me and my friend up, I got in the car and she said, oh, Tim, are you feeling okay? You look really pale. And of course, I'd taken this as confirmation that I've swallowed some blue tack and I'm going to die now, when really it was just I was so panicking about this thing that I was feeling physically ill. I was feeling sick. I had a stomach ache. The blood had drained from me. It's surprising what your mind can do when you focus on a certain idea and you convince yourself that it's real. So, as hard as it is, and I don't think it's an adequate answer for you, because I think this is one of those things where Kerry, it's better off to talk one-to-one on these things. But don't be surprised if the more fixated you become on the idea of feeling unbalanced, the more you're going to feel unbalanced. But I agree with you. Get the tests done. Get the tests done that are adequate to put your mind at rest, and then accept that, you know what, sometimes we don't feel well for various reasons, and we can start to fixate on that idea. Yeah. So I think, unfortunately, when it comes to health things that have been ongoing, it does take a bit of a process just to move us on, because we have to go through that. Okay, I've got to get cleared medically, not just cleared medically, but satisfactorily, to my satisfaction. So it's not just going to be the GP doing an examination and saying you're fine, because you're going to be a bit like, am I though? Okay, I want to get some more serious tests done. So it might take a little bit of a time for your mind to accept that. But then understand, yeah, my mind can create these feelings even when there's nothing actually wrong. And so it can help to understand that at times. You want to feel better, we'll keep trying. Yeah, Kerry, I feel for you. I really do. If it helps in any way, I had very similar experience, not in terms of balance, but with other things this year after I had my medical scare in January. I was over fixating on how I felt. I had sort of quite depersonalized and was more derealization that I was feeling on a small scale. I'm not going to say it's in any way like as bad as other people. I don't want to over-grandize it, but I recognized I was fixating on the way I felt, whether I felt present or not. And at some point, I had to just, listen to my own advice and say, okay, I think I need to, what will be will be. Let's not pay too much attention to it because it doesn't need my attention. It doesn't demand my attention. Yeah, but I hope that helps in some way, Kerry. I do. It's one of those things. I'll tell you what I can tell you, but sometimes it feels inadequate in just a live broadcast. But I hope that helps. Half an hour. I've gone on a bit. Sorry, guys. I'm aware I'm doing long answers tonight. Sorry. At all. Hi, Tim. How to lower expectations from myself. I start beating myself up whenever I don't feel anxious. And as soon as I notice I'm anxiety free, I'm happy, but I realize that I was doing nothing. Start beating myself up whenever I don't feel anxious. And as soon as I notice I'm anxiety free, I'm happy, but I realized that I was doing nothing. Yeah, that's how you do it. So as weird as it sounds, doing something to get rid of anxiety, it's a bit like doing something to go to sleep. Yeah, you don't go to sleep by doing. Sleep happens when you stop doing. Same with anxiety. Yeah, when you stop actually focusing on it, when you stop doing the exercises that you were told would lower your anxiety, when you stop scanning for how anxious you feel from moment to moment, you stop doing the thing that is creating the anxiety. Yeah. So doing nothing is the answer. So when you notice you're anxiety free, just be happy and that's it. Full stop. That's it. Yeah. But yeah, I hope that helps. Diane, I'm not usually anxious during the day because I'm so busy, but in the evenings trying to wind down is my issue. Yeah. So people say that, it's the distraction from anxiety. I'm not anxious because I'm so busy. Yeah, that's right, but it's not because it's a distraction. It's because you're not, to go back to Atul's comment, it's because you're not doing the thing to create the anxiety. You're not focusing on whether you're anxious or not. And I think, Diane, what you're probably focusing on is how successfully you're winding down. And as a result, you're creating anxiety surrounding that point of fixation. Yeah, how am I winding down? Okay, do I feel relaxed? How am I doing at that? And it stops you from winding down because your mind is being vigilant about whether or not you are relaxing or not, which is it's really weird when you say it out loud, isn't it? But you're not the first time I've heard this as well. It's when you're at work. It's not that, I was so busy, I didn't notice feeling anxious. You weren't anxious. You were functionally anxious about your work. I've got to do that. I need to be over there and do that. I must get that done because I've got to do that next, that kind of thing. That the anxiety you were feeling was about the things you got to do. When you stop, then, of course, your mind has time to write. What's the next thing how anxious am I then? Am I winding down? It's creating the anxiety by putting the focus on that minutiae of how you're feeling right now. Yeah. So it's not distraction. I know you didn't say distraction, but I'm, just to complete the thought loop I was on there. It's not distraction as in it's going on all the time, but if I distract myself from it, I won't notice. No, it's distraction as in I'm busy, so I don't create any. But then when I stop, if my mind still prioritizes how anxious am I, it will do the thing that creates it. Yeah. Right. How to keep a balance between expectations for myself and being at rest. Atul, allow yourself to be at rest. Being at rest is an essential part of success and achieving. This whole hustle culture thing. What have you got? You've got 40 minutes there of your day you could be using to build your empire. Bullshit. There's going to be a lot of very, very sick rich people. There are a lot of very, very sick rich people. And very, very sick poor people who still hustle every hour that God sends, wonders why they're not being successful and haven't worked out it's because they're hustling too much. Rest is your best medicine. I mean, it's sorry if I'm sounding flippant or dismissive about that, but it's something I talk about it all the time. You won't believe how important it is, your downtime, not just to look after yourself, but if you really want to achieve the great things, stop. and rest. And then you will achieve great things when you choose to engage your mind and your body to take action on things. You will not unless you do that. Anyway, Sally, I've struggled with some work stress this week. Anxiety has kicked in, but I try and remind myself it's useful to get stuff done. Then I cried and carried on with my week. I mean, that sounds pretty good, Sally. That sounds pretty good. Look, congratulate yourself for the things you're getting done. That's all you can do sometimes. And sometimes having a cry is not the worst strategy, you know? I think sometimes think about it, right? We talk about our emotions being functional. What's crying? Yeah. If you've seen Inside Out, the film, by the way, that tells you what crying's for. It allows people to notice that you're in distress and you receive assistance, you receive aid, extra resources from other people. Yeah. It's literally a cry for help. Yeah. When you're crying on your own, what's really happening there then? Maybe there's just a bit of you that wants to be acknowledged, for its efforts, for what it's done, just to be heard. Sometimes don't think the crying is for others to notice. Sometimes the crying's for you to notice. And that's why sometimes I think we feel a bit better after we've had a cry, because it feels like that part has been heard at least. Okay, I know you're there. Yeah, I know you're not happy right now. I know you're not happy with how things are. Or maybe I'm not happy with the day that we've just had. Maybe I want a bit of appreciation for all the effort we've put in. For you guys that know the analogy of the captain and the crew, there may be crew members that feel they're being neglected and aren't being heard. Sometimes it's good to allow them to be heard. But well done for all you've done, everything that you managed to get done. Well done. Tim, will you be available online during the Christmas and New Year weeks? I probably will. I mean, I feel like I'm likely to do a live because I won't be seeing clients over and if I'm, and normally these lives occur when I feel like, yeah, you know what, I've got something left to give today, if that makes sense. If I'm like exhausted and I'm like, this would not be a good live, I would just be, I'd just be talking nonsense, then I won't do one. But if I feel like I've got something to give, then I will go live. But I mean, I'll always try and go live in the members area when I can. For you guys that don't know, there is a members area to the channel where there's extra videos. I do extra lives. Also, members area now has access to a Facebook group that we just set up this week. So who knows what that's going to become? I'll probably be posting more things in there, and we'll be chatting with each other a bit more rather than just on this live when it happens. But yeah, Paul, I will be trying to do. I'm sure I will do some lives if I'm here. I'm by my computer. Why not? Can be a stressful time, the Christmas period. I remember Christmas. What was it? Boxing Day. We got back from my mum and dad's. I've told you the story before, I'm sure. Brit was on the sofa, and Fitbit thing said, "Stop! Your heart rate's too high, dangerously high. Stop exercising." And we just sit on the sofa. Turns out she'd eaten so much cheese at mum and dad's. She was having a cheese attack. Not for the first time, I'm sure. Sam, hey Tim, great to see you starting the live vids again. I'm just tuning in to show my support. Except Tim's support has really helped me during dark times recently. I'm recovering. Oh, thank you for saying that, Samuel. Sam. That's very nice to hear. Faith and Grace, advice on differentiating between anxiety versus true medical emergencies. Yeah, okay, that's a thing, isn't it? Because after all, a lot of the time, our concern is that it's a medical emergency, isn't it? It's not like, oh no, I'm getting really anxious. It's like, oh no, hang on, it's like panic attacks, isn't it? We're not like the real thing of a panic attack is the fear that it's a medical emergency, not that I'm having a lot of anxiety about something. It's that it's a medical emergency. Look, I've spoken to paramedics about this. Most of their call outs when it comes to like heart attacks and things like that are panic attacks. My advice is always don't think you're wasting people's time. If you're not feeling right, get the medical people out because that's their job. Yeah. They'll tell you if you're okay, and hopefully that's what it'll be. But don't self-diagnose. Don't think you have to self-diagnose here. I would say that the majority of feelings that we have are completely benign. I mean, when I say majority, I'm like 99.9% of all the times we feel weird or in slight distress, or we've got pains we don't know about, or why is my heart racing? Why is my breathing gone funny? Why am I lightheaded? Why am I feeling unbalanced? That sort of stuff. 99.9% of it is completely benign, is nothing, but it doesn't hurt to check it out. And also just, well, yeah, just doesn't hurt to check it out, and that's what I would say. Because at the end of the day, I'm not going to say to you, oh, if it's this, that means it's just anxiety rather than a heart attack or something, because I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you those things. And also, I don't think a doctor would come on here and say something like that. Certainly not a responsible doctor, because nobody should be diagnosing themselves over the internet, whether it's a live stream, whether it's an Instagram post or anything like that. Really shouldn't. That's a very bad idea. Loz, good evening. Giordano. Considering medication for anxiety, everything else has failed thus far. Any thoughts? Well, I'm not a medical man, so I don't prescribe medication. Yeah. And I always work with people and help them get the result without medication. But I'm not saying don't go meds if meds is the direction you want to go. Yeah, absolutely. Because you'll be able to find lots of people to tell you, you know what, medication helped me greatly. So I think that was one of the things that people misunderstood about my TED talk, because I said I'm not a fan of medicating anxiety. They took it to mean, oh, you're saying I shouldn't be doing I shouldn't be on any medication. Then anyone that was watching it that was on medication instantly feels attacked, and that's not what I'm saying at all. I am saying that I don't think, in my experience, we get to the stage where we can't feel calm without medication. Yeah, and calm is our natural state when we no longer feel high anxiety. It's our default state. And that doesn't feel like it. When we've been through a high anxiety phase, it doesn't feel like calm is our default state. It feels like highly anxious is our default state. But the reason we remain in that highly anxious state is because a part of us feels under threat. And if we understand the reason, and if we can hopefully do the work to dismiss that reason, so it isn't a reason for us anymore, we will return to calm. But absolutely, talk to people about meds should you feel it's right for you. You'll not find me recommending either way on that one. Yeah. But yeah. Loz, you're saying unbalanced and woozy feelings are probably the worst symptoms for you too. There you go. So you carry not alone in that one. Not alone in that one. Loz has just said something brilliant there. They often say the most annoying symptom you experience and focus on is the last symptom to go. The most annoying one. That's a really good way of putting it. Or the one that most threatens us, so gets our attention the most. I've had loads of people come to me and say, I know it's not a threat anymore. It just annoys the hell out of me that it's still there. Yeah, we've gone through the phase where it was terrifying. What does that mean that I feel that way? This could be the end of me. And we've now got the information and we understand, okay, it's not a threat. Okay, I'm safe. It's not a medical emergency. It's not a problem. It's just annoying now. And that's the one we fixate on. And as a result, it's the last one to go because it's the one that is getting our attention. And this is what I'm saying. It's our fixation on it that gives it life, if you know what I mean. Somebody once said to me, anxiety thrives on our attention. Yeah. As soon as you stop paying attention to it, it goes away. It like wanders off and bothers someone else. I don't know. That's the wrong way of putting it. But you know what I mean? It's like that. And I think that's such a good way of putting it. It's the annoying symptom that is the one that we experience longest because we're annoyed by it. You know, it's like I don't know, the noise that's in the room that is annoying us is the one we fixate on, isn't it? Yeah. So another analogy that I use is that when we have a little thing that we want to focus on, if we put the magnifying glass on it, yeah, and it's like that thing you used to do as a kid where you used to focus the sun on a spot and you could burn a hole in a bit of paper, yeah, that's what happens. We focus on it and we create the burning. It wasn't there, yeah. We've created something that just by our focus on it, yeah. Let's go back to that. Matt the Trucker. Cool name. Wow, I've caught a live stream. Thank you for all your help and advice. No problem, Matt. No problem. I've been doing them more lately, haven't I? This is, I think, my third Friday in a row, is it? Maybe getting back in the habit now. I do enjoy doing these, and I hope they're valued too. If you're in the room and you haven't hit the like button yet, could do that. That'd be lovely. Thank you. Faith and Grace, Tim, you're such a gift. I hope you know how helpful you're in helping us reach and live in freedom. Oh, that's a lovely thing to say. Thank you very much. All well and good. Hello. Hi, Tim. Hope you're well. Great to catch you live. Last time I was here, I hadn't begun therapy. I'm a few months in, and what a difference it has made to help me live in the moment and reduce anxiety. That's brilliant. That's superb. That's superb. This is the thing. So we had a question about meds, and people often ask me what's the best therapy and things like that. And all of these things, it's like everyone has their own path, if that makes sense. If that doesn't sound too spiritual. Yeah, it's you'll be amazed at how many people have completely different stories about how they went about feeling better and getting past what they were going through. Yeah. But I tell you what, nearly all of them, when they're the other side of it, will tell you the thing that myself and Tim Lindeberg were talking about in the video that we did recently is that at some point a bit of their mind just clicked in, oh, I don't actually have to pay attention to how anxious I am. It doesn't actually, I don't have to be bothered by that. It doesn't threaten me anymore. And as a result, they just stopped being bothered by it, as in it stopped getting to high levels. Yeah, it doesn't mean there aren't things in our life where we'll go through tough times and we feel highly anxious, not because of I'm worried about anxiety, but because life is throwing me a lot right now. That'll happen. But maybe we don't anymore feel the need to focus on the anxiety itself. Yeah. But that's a great one to finish on, though. That's a great one to finish on. So 46 minutes, blimey, that's a long one. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to call that it for this evening. Then I hope you guys have got something from this live stream. I hope it's been of value to you. I won't be on next Friday because next Friday is my birthday, and I believe I'm being whisked away somewhere by my good lady wife Brit for a surprise. Obviously not a surprise that I'm being whisked away, but whatever it is a surprise. So I hope you thank you very much, Paul. But anyway, everyone have a great weekend. I will see you probably the week after next then. Don't forget, if you want more support, the members area is available. There's extra videos there. There's my full system for change on there. There is also a Facebook group now that when you join the members area, you get an invite to that as well. So, there's all the good stuff there. But if I don't see you for the next couple of weeks, then always remember, be kind to your mind, and I'll see you next time.